What's up? One Piece chapter 893. I want to start off this review by talking about the cover page. The Usoland ship is reminiscent of a, you know, those pirate ships at water parks for children? That's what it reminds me of, and I think that's what Oda's going for with like the little tantadas next to the ship, kind of playing in the water and playing on top of it. It's kind of supposed to give off that vibe, and I think he captures the essence of it very well. I still do think they're going to have problems sailing the seas, but it's One Piece, so I don't know how relevant that may or may not be, and we don't know how capable the ship is of sailing. So we will see that, hopefully, because that's just something I want to see. However, it probably won't be portrayed, and if it does get portrayed, then it's a godsend. The main meat of the chapter can be divided into three parts. The first part being Katakuri rushing Luffy. The second part starting with the Rayleigh flashback and kind of ending when Katakuri goes back to his confrontation with Luffy. And then the last 2 pages being the final part. So let's dive right into the first part, which is Katakuri rushing Luffy. And obviously we see that Luffy is completely on the defensive. And Katakuri shows his intelligence in this moment, because he's really conscious of what's going on. He notices that his opponent is dwindling in energy, and he starts to question as to why that is, and he starts to become very disappointed in his opponent, because honestly, it's very rare that Katakuri gets the opportunities to fight people of his caliber or close to his caliber, because who else is there? There's admirals, other Yonko commanders, Yonkos, but once you get into the big league fights and the big league players, how many people are there left to fight to increase your skills, or to test out your new skills, or to test out your new moves before you completely wipe the floor with everyone? Then we get to see a flashback with Rayleigh, and whenever we get to see a flashback with Rayleigh, we need to get our pens and paper out and we need to start taking notes, because things are about to be revealed. And what we get is a tangible sense as to what observation haki is. Well, how is that? Rayleigh says it's okay if you see it in your imagination, because that's where the color of observation haki lies. And so, how can we liken that to our human world? Well, have you ever been in a situation where you think someone's watching you, or something's coming at you, or something's going to hit you, but it's all in your head, it's all in your imagination, you just have like a bad feeling about something that may be coming in the future? Well, Rayleigh goes on to say that within that headspace of imagination, there is a lot of strings kind of fate that go off that are completely false, but there is one that is true. So that is where observation haki lies. That is where seeing the future is. So that's why he says it's okay if you see it in your imagination, because that's the first step to seeing the future, to seeing what's going to come next. Now we can kind of have a better understanding of what observation haki is and how these characters are obtaining it. They're going in that kind of anxietous headspace where you're like, oh shit, something's about to come at me, or someone's watching me from the corner, and they're finding kind of where they're pinpointing exactly the right pathway. And that would also make sense that observation haki blooms in, in severe situations, or in dire situations and extreme conflicts, because at that point, if you see something wrong, if you make the wrong assumption about the future, if you get the wrong feeling, quote unquote, then that could be life or death. So things become less scattered and things become more clear as to what's going to happen because of the severity of the situation, because you're at the level of observation haki where you can see things coming. So, and we also get an understanding as to where Luffy's observation haki is at a base level, kind of before this fight was, which is he's able to unconsciously feel out the future, which was the point of his training, to be able to see it at a base level. Then we get the stuff with Flambe. Now, some people thought that Flambe's role in this fight would be to observe the fight and to see, like, just to have a spectators for the fall of Katakuri. However, her real role was to give more personality and more depth to the character of Katakuri. And anytime Oda takes a chance to characterize his characters more, it's vastly important. It's something that we don't get very often. And now that we're getting it, I was very excited. Especially for the way that it's done, because, you know, we don't like Flambe. Obviously, no one would like Flambe, that kind of shallow, superficial, no understanding of the valor of a one-on-one fight, the valor of no respect for Katakuri's few pride and joys, because her interference is coming from a selfish place, and Katakuri's happiness comes from his few joys in life, which would be fighting and eating, similar to Luffy. However, if someone comes and interferes with that for their own, to getting own attention on them, to getting their own spotlight, it will start to rub us the wrong way. It's like, don't interfere with one of the few opportunities I have to have a real valid fight. You're interrupting everything. You're interrupting what I live for. And so that's probably why he went to the extreme of stabbing himself and showing off his scarf, because he's like, F all of you, fuck all of you, F all of you, fuck all of you. This is who I am. I'm a fighter, I'm a real man, and this is a man's fight. So you guys need to pass the fuck out, get back, and let real men get to their business. And of course, that made me fall in love with Katakuri's character. Before I thought he was just an edgelord, very calm, collected, like, so cool. But now we're seeing that Katakuri's a real man. We first got glimpses of his character with the gluttony thing, and that he was kind of a very secretive human being. But now we're seeing that when he respects someone to a certain level, especially in a fight, in a one-on-one man's duel, there's nothing that's going to stop him from fully experiencing his experiences. So, or fully experiencing that opportunity, that fight. So that characterization of Katakuri made me really fall in love with him, because I feel like, yeah, man, let's get into it. It's a real man's fight. It's so good. Moving on from there, we get the Katakuri and Luffy observation haki clash. Now, some people are going to say it doesn't make sense for Katakuri to have Conqueror's Haki. Well, yes and no, because I honestly don't think... I think it is a very special trait, but at the same time, it's further evidence that Katakuri has his own will, and we especially see that because he is very secretive from his family. So the fact that he does have Conqueror's Haki makes sense, because he's very secretive, he's very to himself, he's not really... he's a part of his family, he cares about his family, he cares about his mother, but at the same time, he's his own man, so... And really, like, Don Chinjao has Conqueror's Haki, Doflamingo, Boa Hancock. You know, these characters that have Conqueror's Haki, it doesn't really need to make sense. It's just, they have it. They have the will, they have the power. And that's all we really need to know coming from Oda. I don't think there needs to be kind of a speculation. It's like, well, does that make sense? Is that an ass pull? Absolutely not, because Luffy doesn't overpower Katakuri with his Conqueror's Haki at all. They actually clash, and it's the first thing that kind of makes Katakuri get more respectful of Luffy. We see him wheeze after the Conqueror's Haki blast, and we see him say that he doesn't consider Luffy an inferior opponent at that point. So, would it be an ass pull if Katakuri had Conqueror's Haki and he was overcome by Luffy? Yeah, but or that he overpowered Luffy, kinda. But the fact that it's similar, it just makes sense. It feels right. And that's the important thing. It's not that it makes sense all the time, is that it feels right. And if we really analyze it, as far as making sense, does it make sense? Yeah. Because there's some characters who just have it and some characters just don't. And I don't see why there needs to be some kind of overanalyzation of who can have it and who can't have it. It's just, if Buggy D Clown had Conqueror's Haki, it would be like... But at the same time, it would be like, yeah, why not? He is his own man. He's his own pirate. And strength playing into that, how much you do with that Conqueror's Haki is your own individual choice and will. So, yes, it makes sense in the context of the story, in the context of One Piece. And it felt right. It didn't feel like it was badly done. I mean, the fact that he is tying with Luffy at this point in Conqueror's Haki... makes sense, because the Luffy's most powerful Haki is his Conqueror's Haki. So Katakuri sees Luffy as his equal at this point, but I don't think that we can just come to the conclusion that Luffy has similar observation Haki as Katakuri at this point. I still think he has a long way to go, but I think that now that the seas are calm and even and equal, now we can see these two tsunamis come at full force at one another. And one thing that I forgot to mention, just really quickly here on the end, we see Luffy say that it was his mistake for not dodging the needle, but I do think that he means a total dodge and not as like he was just overcome by his situation. The needle was dodged by Luffy, however not completely, and I think that's what he means when he says, it was my fault for not dodging it. In conclusion, I would like to say I was right last chapter that it was indeed a real wound. All the people making speculation about, oh, it's Brûlé, oh, it's his observation Haki on another level, seeing the future. Come on now, get real.
Damn!
God has shown his love and his light on my observation hockey. I did a live reaction to this part. If you would like, please go check that out, because I kind of do them differently than other people. I really hate that some people post live reactions, that the majority of people post live reactions, them completely reacting to the chapter. I've already read the chapter. You've already read the chapter. I just want to see the portions where you were the most hype and where I was the most hype, so that I can kind of relate and get that sensibility of like what your reaction was to it. It kind of makes it more of an interesting video, in my opinion. And I feel like it takes less of your time. Like, are you going to really sit there and watch a 12-minute video of someone reacting to a chapter you already read completely in its entirety? Come on now. That's why they have reviews, and that's why reactions exist, so that you can separate them and make one a little bit more condensed, one a little bit more interesting, one a little bit more fluid, and the other really a deeper analysis of what's going on. Now, I had the idea of putting the reaction at the beginning of my reviews. However, it's 4 minutes long, and that's kind of a long time before we get into the review. So I think dividing them up into 2 portions was a good move on my part. If you like that, let me know in the comment below. If you think I'm an idiot and I'm just missing the mark on something here, let me know down below. If you think that this review was good, bad, leave a like or a dislike, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. So thank you very much. I hope you all are having an amazing day. This chapter was phenomenal. It was amazing, and this fight is building up to be one of my favorite fights in One Piece.